Clovis man says he might have caught the mythical chupacabra creature terrorizing his chickens.
There are places in this country where something shows up on camera, police get called, and at the end of the night, nobody has an explanation. Not a cover-up, not a hoax, just silence. The kind of silence that follows you home. Tonight, we're going through a collection of incidents caught on security cameras, body cams, and cell phones, where law enforcement showed up and left with more questions than answers. Some of these involve creatures that shouldn't exist. Some involve animals that were supposed to be gone. All of them happened in ordinary places, to ordinary people, on nights they will never forget. Let's start in Nevada, a state most people associate with Las Vegas, neon lights, and desert highways. But once you get past the city limits, Nevada becomes something else entirely. Flat, dark, quiet in a way that makes your ears ring. A man was home alone one night in a residential area outside the city, the kind of neighborhood where houses are spaced out, fences are old, and the only sound after 10 o'clock is wind moving across dry ground. He heard a thud from the backyard. Not an animal knocking something over, not a branch falling, a heavy, deliberate thud. His first instinct was to open his security camera app instead of going outside, which honestly was the right call. What he saw on that screen stopped him cold. Standing in his backyard was a figure, tall, unnaturally thin, like the body had been stretched beyond what muscle and bone should allow. It wasn't moving. It was just standing there, facing the house. Its eyes were large and caught the light in a way human eyes don't. Its mouth, and the homeowner struggled to describe this part, was too wide, far too wide for the size of its face. He called the police immediately, told them directly. He believed there was an alien in his backyard. Officers arrived within minutes, swept the yard with flashlights, checked the fence line, checked the surrounding area. Nothing. No footprints, no disturbance in the dirt, no evidence that anything had been standing there at all. But the camera had recorded it. When officers reviewed the footage, they didn't laugh it off. They didn't write it up as a neighbor in a costume or a trick of light. The official response was that there was a figure in the video they could not identify or explain on the spot. In Nevada, that kind of answer carries weight. Because people who live near the desert know the desert doesn't give things back once they disappear into it. Now we move to Florida, where strange wildlife sightings are practically a local tradition. But this one was different enough that it made officers stop and reach for their body cameras before they reached for anything else. A call came in late at night, large, aggressive animal near a suburban gas station. When patrol units arrived, what they found didn't immediately register as something they had training for. The creature was massive, dark green, long-bodied, with a head that was disproportionately large and a row of spines running from its neck all the way down its back. Officers approached carefully. The animal thrashed, curled its body, opened its mouth wide in a threat display that made at least one officer take a step back. It took heavy gloves, thick jackets, and multiple officers working together to restrain it. The body cam footage that circulated afterward caught one officer saying clearly, "Don't move too much," not to his partner, but to the animal, out of genuine concern that if it fought harder, someone was getting seriously hurt. Eventually, the creature was wrapped, secured, and handed off to wildlife control. Wildlife experts later identified it as an iguana, but not any iguana you'd expect to find wandering around a gas station. This animal was exceptional in size, well beyond what locals were used to seeing, and its behavior suggested it had been in captivity long enough to lose whatever natural fear it might have had of people. Most likely an exotic pet, illegally kept, that either escaped or was abandoned when it got too large to manage. Here's the thing about that explanation. It's completely rational, and it still doesn't make the footage any less unsettling. Because when you watch officers struggle to contain a reptile that size in the middle of an ordinary suburban night, it's a reminder that nature doesn't always stay where we think we've put it. Sometimes it shows up under fluorescent lights, 3 feet from a gas pump, and it is not interested in cooperating. This next one has no official confirmation attached to it. The footage exists, the source does not. The video is believed to have come from internal security cameras inside a holding facility on the outskirts of Independence, Missouri, an abandoned industrial zone, no signage, no timestamp on the footage, raw recording, echoing audio, harsh fluorescent light. According to people who claim to have knowledge of the incident, local police had received multiple calls about something large, winged, and not human moving near a stretch of highway by the forest. The decision, reportedly, was to capture it alive rather than put it down. That decision is where things fell apart. The footage shows a creature confined inside a reinforced glass chamber. It stands upright on two legs, lean but clearly powerful. Dark skin, large wings that twitch constantly, not deliberately, but reflexively, like the body is running a current it can't shut off. For the first few minutes, it just paces, head down, breathing hard. Then it charges the glass, the camera shakes. Not from the recording device, from the room absorbing the impact. The creature backs up and charges again. Then it begins dragging its claws across the glass in long, slow strokes. And then it screams. And according to the anonymous source who leaked this footage, that sound, whatever came out of that creature, did not match any known animal on record. The footage cuts the moment the creature lunges directly toward the camera, wings fully extended. Since the clip surfaced, the facility has been sealed. Local police have declined every request for comment. And the question that follows this story isn't whether the creature was real. It's this: if they had it once, why does no one talk about what happened to it? West Virginia, Appalachian country, houses spaced far apart, tree lines close to the road, and nights that get genuinely dark in a way that most American suburbs don't anymore. A family's front yard security camera recorded something crossing their property in the early hours of the morning. At first glance, watching the footage, your brain tries to make it make sense. It looks like a person crawling. But within a few seconds, that explanation starts to collapse. The creature is pale, no visible hair, and it moves wrong. Deeply, fundamentally wrong. Its joints bend at angles that human joints don't reach. It stays low to the ground, moving fast across the yard with a motion that's almost insect-like, efficient but completely alien to the human eye. The shape of it sits somewhere between a person and a large dog, but it's neither. The homeowner called police after watching the footage. Officers arrived, searched the yard and surrounding area, and came up with nothing. No tracks, no signs of disturbance. When they reviewed the camera footage themselves, they couldn't identify what they were looking at as a person or as any known wildlife. Online, this footage hit hard. The Appalachian region has a long oral history of what locals call crawlers, unidentified creatures reported moving on all fours through rural areas, particularly near old forest roads and hollow land. Some people call them dogmen. Some people don't give them a name because naming something feels like it makes it more real. What stays with people who watch this clip isn't the creature itself. It's the realization that it crossed the yard 10 feet from the front door, and nobody inside the house knew until morning. There are cases where the evidence outlasts the sighting. This is one of them. A man in a small town near the Missouri forest line heard something in his backyard late at night. Not the kind of noise you dismiss and roll over for, the kind that gets you out of bed. When he stepped outside, there was something against the back wall of his house. Jet black, horned, teeth visible even in the dark, catching what little ambient light existed. It wasn't attacking. It wasn't advancing toward him. It was pressed against the wall, not leaning on it, not climbing it, but moving through it, the way a hand moves through water. As if the wall was more suggestion than solid material to whatever this thing was. For several seconds, they just looked at each other. Then the creature slid backward into the wall and was gone. Police arrived after an emergency call. No creature, but the wall told a different story. Deep claw marks, documented by officers and photographed at the scene. No official conclusion was issued. The marks existed. The explanation did not. In towns that sit on the edge of old forest, there are stories that predate the internet, predate cameras, predate most of the infrastructure we now take for granted. This incident didn't create those stories. It just added one more data point to a pattern locals have never been able to close. This one is slower, and somehow that makes it worse. A homeowner in a remote area of Oregon checked his security cameras the next morning as part of his daily routine, standard procedure. He wasn't expecting anything unusual. The nighttime footage showed a figure outside his kitchen window, humanoid, moving with a slowness that didn't read as careful. It read as unfamiliar, like the body didn't have full confidence in how to operate in this environment. It pressed close to the window, then it began to climb inside. It never fully crossed the threshold. It stopped, stood still for a few seconds, turned its head slowly, and scanned the inside of the kitchen, methodically, the way someone would search a room for something specific. There was no aggression, no noise, just a silent presence on the other side of the glass, looking at the interior of this man's home like it was a museum exhibit. Then it turned around and climbed back out, disappeared into the dark. When police reviewed the footage, they confirmed they could not identify the figure as a human or any known animal. There were no signs of forced entry. Nothing inside the home had been touched. The detail that people keep coming back to is this: it could have gone inside. Whatever it was, it chose not to. And that choice, a deliberate, seemingly considered choice, implies something about the level of awareness behind those movements that most people aren't comfortable thinking about for too long. Not everything in this video requires the supernatural to be genuinely frightening. Sometimes the natural world does the job on its own. For close to a century, the coastal marten was considered gone from California, extinct, the kind of animal that gets a paragraph in a textbook and a footnote in conservation reports. No sightings, no photographs, no confirmed traces. Biology moved on. Then trail cameras placed by researchers from Oregon State University in dense coastal forest near Klamath, California, started capturing images at night. A small, low-profile mammal, agile, cautious, moving exactly as the historical descriptions of the coastal marten described. At first, the researchers assumed misidentification. Then more footage came in. Then more. The animal was alive, not thriving. Surveys suggested only a few hundred individuals remaining, spread across some of the most remote forest patches on the West Coast, actively avoiding roads, human activity, and anything that could bring attention to where they were. They had been there all along, surviving, hiding, waiting out a century of human expansion in the pockets of wilderness we hadn't fully reached yet. The frightening part of that isn't the marten itself. It's the question that comes with it. If a species we officially declared gone can sustain a population for 100 years without anyone noticing, quietly living in the gaps between what we know and what we've confirmed, then the concept of extinction becomes a lot less definitive, and the concept of unknown becomes a lot more populated. Some cases don't go away. 70 years later, Flatwoods is still one of them. September 1952, Braxton County, West Virginia. A group of residents saw a bright object streak across the sky and appear to come down in the forest nearby. They went to investigate. Some of them were kids. Local law enforcement was involved. What they encountered in those woods is still unresolved. Witnesses described a tall humanoid figure, not human in proportion or movement, with a distinctive smell that burned the eyes and throat on contact. Some said it floated. Some said it stood completely still and watched them. Officers who entered the area reported nausea and an intense burning sensation in their eyes. Several of them refused to go back into that section of the forest afterward. No creature was captured, no clear photographs were taken. The area was officially logged, the witnesses were interviewed, and no conclusion was ever formally issued. What makes Flatwoods hold up over time isn't one dramatic piece of evidence. It's the consistency. Multiple witnesses, including law enforcement who didn't know each other well, describing the same thing in the same terms. The physical symptoms that affected people who entered the area. And the flat refusal of the officers present that night to return to the woods. Not dramatic, not performative, just a quiet, firm refusal that speaks to something they never publicly explained. You can call it mass hysteria. You can call it misidentification. But those explanations require you to account for every detail, and they never quite do. The Missouri monster, Momo, has been reported since the 1940s. Tall, bipedal, heavily built, with thick dark hair and eyes that witnesses consistently described as glowing orange in low light, 6 feet or taller, moving through rural Missouri with a confidence that suggested it knew the land better than the people living on it. The incident that brought police directly into the story happened in 1972. 2 boys playing behind their family home encountered a large creature standing nearby, holding a dead dog. They ran. Adults were called, police were called, officers searched the area. They documented large, unusual footprints. They noted a powerful, foul odor that had no identifiable source. The creature was gone. The evidence remained, and it didn't fit neatly into any conventional explanation. Police could not confirm what had been in those woods. They also could not explain away what they had documented. The easy answer, that it was a bear, falls apart when you press on it. Bears don't sustain a fully upright bipedal posture for extended periods. Bears don't match the proportions witnesses described. And bears don't create the particular kind of fear that sent 2 children sprinting across a yard and led adults to call emergency services rather than grab a flashlight and go look themselves. Momo has never been proven to exist. But in the rural parts of Missouri where these reports originated, the locals weren't confused about what they saw. They were very clear. And clarity from multiple independent sources over multiple decades is harder to dismiss than one person's story on one strange night. Lake Tahoe is one of the most studied bodies of water in North America. Crystal clear surface, enormous depth, an ecosystem old enough to have developed independently of most of what surrounds it. And for decades, people have been reporting something in it. Tahoe Tessie, the name locals use, is described as a long, dark creature moving beneath the surface, creating large, sudden ripples in water that had been completely still a moment before. Not boat wakes, not wind disturbance, the kind of movement that implies something massive passing just beneath the surface with enough speed and mass to displace water visibly. Reports come from all sides of the lake, particularly from areas far from marinas and public beaches. Water Patrol has been called out multiple times following sightings. They arrive. The lake is quiet. Nothing is visible. Lake Tahoe reaches depths exceeding 1,600 feet in places. It contains species that exist nowhere else on Earth. It is cold, ancient, and largely unexplored at its deepest points. The scientific answer, large sturgeon, floating debris, light refraction, covers some of the reports. It doesn't cover all of them. And the witnesses who don't know each other, reporting the same size, the same movement pattern, the same sudden appearance and disappearance, are difficult to file under coincidence. What makes Tahoe different from most lake monster stories is the setting. This is not a remote, foggy Scottish loch. This is a major American tourist destination with constant boat traffic and clear water. If something is down there, and that's a serious if, it is hiding in plain sight in one of the most visited places in the American West. Here's what all of these cases have in common. Police responded, evidence was documented, and at the end of every single investigation, the official conclusion was some version of "we don't know." Not fraud, not hoax, not misidentification, just "we don't know." That matters, because law enforcement officers are trained observers. They write reports, they look for explanations, and when they can't find one, they say so. Quietly, carefully, but they say it. The coastal marten survived for a century in forests we thought we knew completely. Creatures described in 1952 are still being described in 2025 in different states by people who have never compared notes. Something stood in a Nevada backyard and left no footprints. Something pressed its face against a kitchen window in Oregon, looked around, and left. The question isn't whether you believe in monsters. The question is whether you believe that we have fully accounted for everything living in the gaps of this country, in the rural stretches, the deep water, the old forests, and the dark spaces between houses in neighborhoods where nobody looks outside after midnight. Because based on what keeps showing up on camera, the answer to that question appears to be no.